Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Former President Harry Truman said these words well over 60 years ago, and they are so true for today. Events have brought our American democracy to new influence and new responsibilities. They will test our courage, our devotion to duty, and our concept of liberty. Amen. Words said over 60 years ago. Good morning, here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Oh, good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell. And with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, absolutely. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal, 734-6969. Right now, let's go to the phone lines, and good morning for our Pledge of Allegiance.
The special Pledge of Allegiance person hasn't called in yet, sir.
I think then at this juncture, Wheels, if you would do that task, you do an excellent job, loud, clear, and let it go. Thank you.
You're welcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, I want to say something. We'll stay on the microphone for a second. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but this young man that is working with me on this program, Wheels, is absolutely... Wheels, why don't you take that call? It might be that special caller, if you would, is doing a great job. He's one of the most polite young men I've ever had work with me on any circumstances, and I certainly do appreciate what he does. Wheels, is that call from me? He's waiting.
It is the special Pledge of Allegiance.
You know what? I think we're going to do it twice this morning because this young man had called me and asked to do the pledge, and I'm not going to take away, even if a little bit late, but we're going to go ahead and do it again anyway. Caller, go ahead, please, and thank you for your call.
Thank you, Zeb. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And caller, I know that you want to dedicate that pledge. It means a lot to you this morning, and if you want to say any words about that, you're more than welcome. If not, I understand.
I just thank you for the opportunity, Zeb, and for all you do. I really appreciate the chance to come on, and I just want to say God bless America.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and God's blessings to you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there were special circumstances there for that young man to call this morning and want to give the pledge as a heartfelt thanks to another party, and I'm not going to get into it any more than that at this time. Now, in the days ahead, I will explain why, and we'll cover that in the future. So that's not a tease for you to listen in the future, but it's just a heartfelt wanting to do that this morning for a special person, and I thank that man for calling. Calls are welcome, 436-2244. But right now, let's go to the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, don't be afraid to mix up metals. Bronze looks even better when it's paired with brass in your home. Yeah, you can do a lot of changes. Whatever you need to make your house a home at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 678-6945. You get a hold of them today. Right now, here's the lovely Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast on this Thursday, January 28th. Partly cloudy skies for today, high of 43. Tonight, low of 33. Now, tomorrow we are expecting about an 80% chance of rain showers in the forecast. Winds out of the southeast right around 11 miles an hour. High of 41 with an overnight low of 32. Saturday, as we get on into the weekend, partly cloudy and 35 with an overnight low of 21, and partly cloudy and 31 for Sunday, and then 30 for Monday. Yesterday's high was 38. The overnight low was 21. That's your weather for Zebit Duran.
I like that, Gina. Well done. Always, and brought to you by the people that have all the carpet and flooring and kitchen construction, home decor items. They are nice people at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Hey, Wheels, here comes Merv May. Let's sell some cattle.
All right, good set of steer calves there. Here to get all the 31, 31,
Oh, that is the chant of the world's best auctioneer, Merv May, down at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. And the number to call for consignment information and info about the sale, 678-9411. Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, Merv May. Sale time today at 10:30. And they're going to have a ripping good run of cattle. And I'm going to go through some of the people coming in with certain amounts of cattle. Whitnaw Ranch up at American Falls, 75 head of calves. Brandon and Will Bedke, good old boys from up in Oakley, 65 to 70 head of yearlings. Joe Tate up at Sequa. Hello, Joe. 35 head of 800-pounders. Jim Ritter of Shoshone, 35 head of 700-pounders. Bruce Durfee over at Elmo. How's the Durfee family this morning? 30 head of mixed yearlings, weighing in at about 600 pounds. Bill and Josh Weiss over there at Antelope Creek, 30 head of yearlings, weighing about 5.5 to 600 pounds. And Lynn Shoddy of Burley, 15 head of older preg-tested cows. Bob Telford of, Hidden Valley. Can't find it. It's hidden. He's bringing in 10 head of butcher cows. All of this starting at 10:30 this morning at Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You better believe it, 678-9411, where that's the sale that works for you. Merv, sell those steers.
All right, good set of steer calves there. Here to get all the 31, 1.5, 31, 1.5, 32, 2.5, 3.5, 134, 4.5, 5.5, 130, 550, 135, selling $1.35. Zeb Bell, get the bottom again.
Oh, my, yes. Thank you very much. We have got a lot of ground to cover this morning, and right now we're going to start it off with a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you very much.
Yes, Zeb, the Lavoy Finicum, he said, give me liberty or give me death. And we cannot forget the example that he set, and we cannot allow it to be forgotten, because if we don't stand up and do something, we will end up with nothing. And this man, in his own way, was a hero and absolutely did nothing to deserve what happened to him. I hope that the truth comes out about this tragedy, but let's make him a hero and remember it and be proactive as citizens.
All right, now let me jump in on you a little bit, Randy, and say this. And there are those that are going to disagree. They have every right to disagree and formulate and give their own opinion. If they want to call in, that's fine. There are this morning a limitless list of questions as to why this happened, why it had to end the way it did, and where we go from here. But I am going to say this, and then I'm going to go into some of those questions this morning. I keep hearing reverberations in my mind of Randy Weaver and Ruby Ridge and also Waco, Texas. And then I see what happened up there. I knew the man that was killed. He called in on my program, very soft-spoken man, and I'm hearing all the reports of how this was a setup and almost, and I'll use this word, an execution. And quite frankly, I think these unanswered questions had better come to the forefront right now. Because I'll say this, Randy, yesterday that press conference, so they called it, in Burns, Oregon, was one of the worst, most jaded events I've ever seen. The public that was there representing the media never had an opportunity to ask any of the questions that might end or finalize some of the doubt that's out there. The main people from the FBI, the Oregon State Police, and, of course, also the county sheriff did nothing and said nothing to answer the questions.
Well, this eyewitness, the Sharps girl, she, if I'm not mistaken, that there was, they were literally, the laser sight red dots on the bodies of these people were numerous, and so I'll tell you what, Deb, I don't know, it wasn't proper. An ambush, maybe.
Well, I'm going to be discussing it all morning long in this first hour, so thank you, Randy. I do appreciate your call. Thank you very much. God bless. Got to pay some bills here, and then I'm going to get into those questions this morning. And anybody with an inquiring mind about really honesty about why this happened and why it had the net result, we need to ask these questions. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459, and they will have your order waiting on the counter for you. Whether it's furnace filters, you can get them in a case of 12 and save a lot of money, discount pricing, or it's electrical needs, whatever, they can help you. They are the best and have been for decades. They are good. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. By the way, today, as a matter of fact, at noon, I have a business meeting at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Yep, and they've got another one at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Thomas and Terry, the whole crew, all the people working for you, they are very efficient, very thorough, and the food is delicious. Denny's Restaurant, you stop in, it's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and I'll guarantee you breakfast, lunch, or dinner at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Real quick, if you'll bear with me, I want to cover one more little commercial. We're going to be talking about this, man, later on this morning. Old Zach and the crew over at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Number to call, 878-2091. And they sponsor Dr. History every Tuesday at 10:06. So don't miss it, and stop in and see them for all your lumber packages, roofing materials, windows, everything. Minnecasia Sales. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb. Well, this tragedy that happened in Oregon, and this wonderful man got shot, it gets me wondering and thinking and even worried that it may start some kind of insurrection into where Obama can declare martial law and refuse to get out of the White House due to martial law being imposed, and then that therefore holding his place in the White House.
Well, let's call it like I do on this program. All right, now I got to be I sound like I'm being strict with you, but I'm not. You'll understand. Number one. Let me. Whoa! We can't talk over each other. Hang on. Number one, that's speculation. I do not deal in speculation. However, you also have made an opinion that might happen, and you certainly have a right to your opinion. I would coincide my thoughts with you on many occasions that with what's going on with this Obama administration, with the pen and also his phone and his edicts, I am very concerned that, to use very blunt language, we ain't seen the last of this man yet. And so I'm very concerned, Riley.
That's the thing. I agree with you. We're going to have to fight him tooth and nail to get him out of office when his term is over. And even after that, I don't think that we'll ever be able to get rid of the guy. Well, now, wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. Let's make an insertion here. The appointment by election of Hillary Clinton would be far worse than what we're seeing right now. Okay, yes, that I would agree with. When the news came out that what happened, that fellow was shot, there was so many different things going on. I seen on CNN said one thing, some other news channels said another thing, and I'm really not even sure what exactly happened.
Well, you know what, and that's clouding the whole issue, but here's where I stand on this, okay? And if I am gone a couple of days next week with doctor's appointments and everything, I know that Gina and I know that Sharon, who are going to be filling in for me a little bit while I have these tests, I know they're going to be covering the story, but I will say this, while I'm gone, if I'm gone, we're going to be staying on top of this story. There's too many differences in opinions and questions that are unanswered. So allow me to go into some of those questions so that we can have some rebuke from the people in the audience. Okay, Riley, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, well, you have a good day.
All right, sir. Thank you much. I'm going to do one more commercial, and then I'm going to get into some of these questions. And I certainly appreciate his last call because it kind of opened the door for a lot of things that need to be discussed. I want to mention to you about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation with Nick Greenwell. Now, that guy, Nick, is so sharp with all the exercises, all the sports medicine, and all that you need to get back to being you. But he has surrounded himself with other great physical therapists that absolutely can help you get back to feeling like yourself. I highly urge you, because of my own personal testimonial, to go in and try to get back to what you were through exercises and physical therapy. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Call today for an appointment at 678-1191, located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2. Caller, thank you. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. Well, I got a kind of a interesting letter from Senator Risch, and in that letter he indicated that we are not at war or never will be at war with Islam. I'm thinking, how naive is he?
Wait a minute.
They declared war on us.
Wait a minute, Adrian, you're a dear friend, but wait a minute. My subject matter this morning is over the issue that happened in Burns, Oregon. If it's not going to dovetail into that, I've already set the pace for what I want to do this morning. I highly respect you as a listener, but okay, he hung up. Fine. We're talking about another subject this morning that is very close to a lot of people in this area. It looks like that it's coming to an end up in Burns, Oregon. And I think the final question is, what did it gain? What did it gain? The death of a good man that cared about this country and its future. 11 people have been arrested. And Ammon Bundy and others have said, maybe it's time to pack up and go home. But like I said a moment ago, there are so many unanswered questions, and I want you, the audience, to try to help me and answer these. Going back to the Hammond family, why were the Hammonds treated like terrorists? They were treated like they were vicious killers over a small fire. They were punished. Then, years later, because the judge didn't think the punishment was tough enough, punished again, and double jeopardy comes into play, and they must have had some lousy lawyers. This is absolutely amazing. They were punished and are being punished again for the same supposed crime. Number 2, why is the government so intent on making sure that the government, have the first right of refusal on the sale of that Hammond Ranch? Could it be because of a deal on uranium that was found on the ranch, and Hillary Clinton is involved in this, along with the Clinton Foundation, and the Russians on a sale of the uranium to them? I've got it right here in my hands. I've got the stories right here in my hands. And we have checked them out with stories that go back 3-4 years ago, and there are stories that relate to a possible uranium find in that area. Number 3, why were the ranchers, and that's what they are, as ranchers, set up in a roadblock and shot at over 100 times on a public road. The FBI and the Oregon State Police said originally, and some of the verbiage that came out of one of the Oregon State policeman's mouth was routine traffic stop. Routine? Why did the feds shoot Lavoy Finicum with his hands raised and he had no weapons? Now here's where it gets a little dicey, and I want to talk about this for a moment. Supposedly, one eyewitness, a man by the name of Mr. McConnell, said that he was stopped on the road approximately 200 yards away from where Mr. Finicum was shot. 200 yards, 600 feet. Now think about this for a minute. You stand at let's use the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo Grounds Rodeo Arena. Stand in front of the rope and shoot and look down to the end of the arena and look down to another arena of the same size, about 600 feet. And you're going to be able to see and hear what was said? Clearly? I doubt it. But another eyewitness that just happened to have been in the vehicle with Mr. Finicum, a young lady, was absolutely scared to death as the bullets riddled the vehicle. And they were laying on the floorboards and praying that they could get out of there and trying to figure out some way to call off the shooting and surrender and get out of the vehicle. And she had stated that Mr. Finicum went out with his hands raised and was shot down numerous times. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Hey, I don't know how many officers were there, but it sounds like there were more than one.
Oh, heavens, yes.
But on a routine traffic stop, how do they have more than one officer in the area?
Wait a minute, Doug. They were in the trees. They were on the snowbanks. They were in the ditches. They were all over the place. They were completely surrounded. It was a set-up stop.
Exactly. And so you think the government's lying to us?
You draw your own conclusion.
It is sickening. It is really sickening, and for them to believe that 90% of the people out here are that stupid.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not, believe me, I'm trying to be impartial on this thing as much as I can be, Doug, because I try to not show partiality unless all the facts are in. But here's the point. All the facts are not in because there's a lot of things that have been witnessed by the girl in the car and others. But why in the world would the FBI and the Oregon State Police and the county sheriff in Harney County call a press conference, make a big to-do about it nationally so all the national news networks and all the state and regional networks are there, and then not take any questions?
Well, that's really, really interesting because they have no answer for a good question.
Well, okay, let me tell you this, and again, I'm trying to be impartial on this, but let's suppose that you want to build something up so that it is concrete hard and the public can't chisel away at it. The more time you take to get a story concrete and work with the people that you have to work with to basically maybe try to cover something up, the more time that you work on the story and the longer you take, the more you can formulate your answers as to what might be asked. And quite frankly, I think they're formulating a story.
They are. They've learned from our liar-in-chief on how to do it, and Al Sharpton how to form a story around a political deal that suits the way they feel and how they want the outcome to come.
Yeah.
I'm sickened by it, and there's some videos that I'd sent you and that I'd watched and listened to, several of them.
I appreciate it.
What I would like to see, first off, I'd like to see how many officers were there at a routine traffic stop.
Yeah.
I also would like to see that car that gal was sitting in. that the gentleman that got killed, what he was driving. I'd like to see that vehicle.
You know, and the thing that I'm getting at is, if all that we have heard and all comes to fruition about Mr. Finicum getting out of the vehicle with his hands raised, he has turned into a sacrifice. Because they say they just shot him at least. One report says 6 times, another report says 9 times.
But they only fired 3 shots.
Supposedly.
3 shots were fired.
Yeah.
That was the story I heard from the sheriff.
But then, of course, when you talk to the people in the car, including this young lady that we have many reports from, there were over 100 shots fired. And if that doesn't resemble something like a Hollywood Bonnie and Clyde movie, I don't know what doesn't.
It does. It's very sickening, and people, we need to wake up.
I guess the point I'm getting at, Doug, the point I'm getting at here is this. Did they do any damage to this Harney County Wildlife Reserve at all?
From what I've seen and the reports and the cameras that have been there, no, they did not. It did not look like Baltimore. It did not look like Ferguson.
I'm not taking the side of the protesters to the point where, it would have been the best way to handle it, whatever. But what I'm saying is, I don't think they did anything to the countryside. I know they didn't do anything to the federal land. They didn't break any laws per se as far as they paid their bills when they went to buy food. They were traveling down the road with gas purchased and paid for. They were going to another constitutional meeting about 20 miles away. So basically, I want to know what laws they broke to the point where they had to be completely surrounded and shot.
That's a good question, and I'll bet none of them have an answer for it.
There'd better be.
And did you see, there's West, I can't think of what his first name is. He's military.
It doesn't make any difference. Alan West, yeah, go ahead.
I read an article that he put online, and I read it, and at the very end, his question was, do white lives matter?
Yeah, good point. Excellent point. I'm just really concerned because here's that one witness, and let me ask you this real quick, and I'm way late on my commercials, so give me a short answer on this. But you stand and look away 600 feet. 600 feet is 200 yards, 2 football fields. And do you mean to tell me that you can hear and see everything clearly at 200 yards?
You might be able to see, but you couldn't see definite, who was what.
Or hear the conversations?
But hearing, I don't think you could hear. No way.
I mean, I'm looking out my back window and visualizing 200 yards, and unless you're a hunter with a scope on it, you know what? 200 yards, it would be 3 of my arenas end to end. And if I'm standing there, you're going to tell me I'm going to see everything clearly and I'm going to hear everything? I don't think so, Doug.
No, you're not going to see it clearly. You could make out a person or a cow or a dog or something like that, but you couldn't see clearly, no.
Anyway, I appreciate your call as always. I got to get my breaks in here. Thank you so much. I am way behind. Calls welcome.
God bless America.
Thank you, and you're so right. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Christine Pickup. Christine, if you're listening, yes. I've been reprimanded by my wife for forgetting to call you. I'm sorry. They're located right across from the Minidoka Hospital emergency room. Number to call, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Please take my advice and call 312-0957 for a hearing screening today. If you've got deteriorated hearing, they can help. They will help. Mount Harrison Audiology, 312-0957. Also, real quick, and then I'll take some more of your calls, I'd like to remind you about our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Berry Equipment and Rental with all the equipment you need to get the job done right. 3 locations, Twin Falls and Jerome and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And I just want to urge you to check today because they are taking out a bunch of their rental equipment, whether it's the Coyote tractors or the Bobcats, and they're cycling out some of the rental fleet, and you can save a lot of money. Great financing options available, so check with them today. Barry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30. They always have the equipment to get the job done right, and the people there that can help you at Barry Equipment and Rental. I feel bad in one respect. I got to say this. I had a call a little bit ago, a good friend Adrian, and very upset because we wouldn't take his topic on the air. I'm going to say this one time again. When we set the pace on a topic that is of great interest to a lot of people in this area, and for that matter all over the United States, and a caller calls in and is mad or upset because I won't take the call and talk and change about the subject, you can understand if we've started something, I'm not just going to stop in midstream and go to another. So if there's any animosity for what I did, I guess basically what I'm going to say is, my show, my rules. So that's where we are. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A lot of stories, and you don't want to take everything off the computer or the internet and treat it as gospel. I really want to remind you that everything or anything you read is not necessarily the truth. You have to be very diligent and check it out, whether it's through Snopes or whatever, and make sure that what you're reading is factual. Make sure that what you're reading and pulling off the internet isn't just a high, glossy attitude or opinion by somebody that's got an axe to grind. And that's why we're very careful about verifying things on this program. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, I wonder why the mainstream media is not reporting on this. Because anybody, even criminals, even families that have people in prison, know that once you serve your time and you get out, it's wrong for them to send them 2 ranchers back, and there's probably not one person in the United States that thinks that that's right, and so that's a huge deal there. I wonder why the mainstream media is not reporting it, even if they don't agree with.
You know, I'm going to answer your question.
Why they're not reporting on that?
I'm going to answer that question very simply, because the mainstream media is too lazy to ask pertinent questions and really delve into a story. And I'll give you an example of why I say this. Right now, the debate in Iowa seems to have all the attention tonight on the GOP debate. And, will Trump show up? Will he not show up? Who's going to take over in his place, etc.? But wait a minute. Here we have a losing of American values and ideals because of people that use the land for a living, and they use the land to try to furnish food for the globe, the whole world, and a man is killed that is unarmed, hands up in the air, supposedly by the eyewitnesses, and I never heard more than one mention last night on any of the primetime newscasts.
And I didn't either. And then you got the Ferguson, where they burned the city down, and they rioted, and they assaulted people, and they assaulted businesses, and that's a protest that should have been stopped. That's a protest that should take further action on. This was a peaceful protest. They were just occupying that building, not hurting anybody, not tearing anything up, but they're the bad guys compared to this. All the black folks in Ferguson.
Let's go back in time. I don't know how old you are, but do you remember Ruby Ridge? Do you remember Waco? Do you remember what happened? Do you remember with the loss of life and the burning and everything else? And then as things settled down, it came out that, we should have done this. We could have done that. You know what? I'm looking at the same story up in Burns, Oregon. I just really question why they were targeted on the road in a supposed traffic stop, I am really questioning why there were supposedly, according to the reports, over 100 bullets fired into the vehicles, why people that were unarmed and weren't brandishing any weapons or doing anything supposedly illegal were subjected to a Bonnie and Clyde enclosure.
Right, and it shouldn't have happened again after Waco or Ruby Ridge, but it did. And what happens is the American public, just since it didn't happen to me or my immediate family, we're going to it's no big deal to us.
Yeah, and you know, there's another point right there that you just mentioned, and it should be elaborated on. If this circumstance had happened in New York State or Pennsylvania or Massachusetts, back where there are literally millions of people living on top of millions of people, and they weren't wearing cowboy hats and cowboy boots, I wonder what the difference of reporting might have been.
Exactly, and you know what? I've talked to you before about different things, about the racism in America. I would be considered Hispanic, but let me bring that into it. Color of skin also, Seth. If they were black, if they were Hispanic, the reporting would be completely different also.
I tend to agree with you. I do. Thank you so much for your call. God bless you, man. Thanks.
God bless you and have a good day.
Thank you. There's just a lot of unanswered questions. I can't sit here on this talk show and I can't just kind of slough this story off and go into another subject when I'm really concerned about the truth. About the truth. Now, if some of these things play out to the point where there is absolute concrete testimony that disproves everything, to the point where, oh boy, they stopped the car and they were shooting back from the cars at the officers and all this, I will be the first one to stand up and say, boy, I'm glad the facts came out and I'm glad we had a chance to really discern the truth in this story. But right now, I'm not seeing that thing. I'm not seeing that side of it, to where the victims, if you will, especially Mr. Finicum, did anything to warrant the death and also the shooting of the vehicles and the potential deaths of the people inside. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. Yeah, you're right about what's going on up there, but there's also something else that's a problem. These debates, all you're going to hear on these things is a bunch of crybabies up there, and they're all against Trump. Now, Trump's the type of guy that's not going to waste his time.
Now, Tony, I'm going to do, Tony, out of respect.
Debate.
Tony?
He's going to do something a lot better than that to take care of these veterans that we've got.
Tony, wait a minute. I got to be fair. As I stated a moment ago, my subject matter is strictly about what happened in the Burns area with the shooting of Mr. Finicum and the rest of these protesters. And for me to jump ship and go to another subject right now, that's not fair, but I understand. I know you'll understand. I've got to stay with the subject matter I'm talking about.
Okay, I remember the Branch Davidian, too. And where does this stop? You know, the government gets in here and they'll go out there and commit a crime to get their point across, and nothing's done about it.
Yeah, that part I agree with. Tony, always, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much. You're a gentleman.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. You know, there are other subjects, sure, I understand, whether it's the Muslim problem, and we do have a problem, whether it is the debates tonight or whatever. But right now, I guess I feel a real closeness to this story, and I'm going to tell you why. I really put a lot of effort into getting Mr. Finicum on our program. And on January 4th, he was on the air with me for a half hour at 10:30 to 11 o'clock. And we had previous conversations. I found him to be a very honest, forthright, very sincere, soft-spoken man. And I'm having a very hard time accepting some of the things that I'm being force-fed by the media and also by that press conference, if you want to call it that, yesterday in Burns, Oregon. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I can't hardly hear you, but I'm going to save my piece and then I'll hang up. But on this deal, you know, remember when the Clintons, a lot of people don't remember the Clintons regime or whatever the hell they call it, but it's all the people that died around there, that Rose law firm and some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got Clinton all over this deal down there. So, okay, I'll hang up and listen to you.
I appreciate that. You know, I want to go back to that story, and thank you, caller. I appreciate that very much. You know, I'm doing my own little research on this, and it's not anything that's going to be done overnight either, but supposedly, now again, I'm using this as my opinion as to what might have happened, and a little bit of speculation, even though I'm against that word at most times, and some fact that the Hammond Ranch and other ranch lands surrounding the Refuge are sitting upon a lot of precious metals, minerals, and uranium. And supposedly, according to stories that I've seen cross my desk in the past, and I'm sure you probably heard about them, that Hillary Clinton has been involved with her foundation in somewhat of a working with the Russian government on supposedly supplying them on a purchase of uranium that, hark, happened to will come from this particular area. Honestly, there is way too much of this story that is not being told. And my biggest concern is, are there people in the media right now this morning that are capable of picking up the journalistic shovel and digging and sifting through all the dirt to ask the right questions so that we, the people in a free society, are given the honest answers? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, it's time for the weather, way past time for the weather. And the weather is brought to you by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Oh, Nicole and her staff over there, they can do anything for the promotional items of your business. They've done a lot for us. I mean, those wooden business cards are fantastic, and all the caps and the jackets and the sweatshirts, and of course the desk material, the office accessories, briefcases, pen sets, everything. They're fantastic at Mad River Laser. Here now is Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast on this Thursday, January 28th. Partly cloudy skies for today, high of 43. Tonight, low of 33. Now, tomorrow we are expecting about an 80% chance of rain showers in the forecast. Winds out of the southeast right around 11 miles an hour. High of 41 with an overnight low of 32. Saturday, as we get on into the weekend, partly cloudy and 35 with an overnight low of 21, and partly cloudy and 31 for Sunday, and then 30 for Monday. Yesterday's high was 38. The overnight low was 21. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and I really congratulate her always with a great job on the weather. Brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Caller, thank you for your call. Good morning.
Good morning. You know, there has been a great deal of push to put body cams on sheriffs and police and whatever, usually after the horse has been let out of the barn door. But what I'm wondering is if this would have been reported differently if they had been warned, and I assume they weren't.
You know,
I do have a lot of respect for our law enforcement people.
I agree with you on everything you said, but I'm gonna draw a little line there, and I want you to respond to it. I think you have heard me many, many times on this program absolutely stand up in defense of our police and our firemen. I know you have.
Absolutely.
Okay, but sometimes issues become very clouded as to politics that may be involved in the issues, and politics leads to big money. Politics leads to sometimes dastardly deeds that are done to protect, back to the beginning of the circle, the politics. And without having these questions answered, Linda, and being really to know the truth, not just from one side of the story. This scares me. Because when you're force-fed information from one side of the story, you're only getting a biased opinion. And we need the facts from both sides.
Yep, it's going to take some good detective work.
I go back to my journalism, what I said just a moment ago on journalistic values. I think journalists today are not doing their job because A, they're lazy in most cases, and B, they're afraid to keep their jobs.
Yeah. I suppose this would come under the heading of good investigative journalism.
I think you're right. I know you're right. But I think until both sides can sit down almost like in the same room and share the facts of what's going on, and the facts can be discerned openly and honestly, when you have only FBI administration officials standing at a microphone and reading a statement, and then followed by possibly Oregon State Police and then also the county sheriff up in Harney County, you are getting only one side of a very biased approach on what really took place, and that's not gonna settle this issue.
No.
All right, God bless you, my dear friend.
And you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, it saddens me about this man that was shot and killed. It saddens me because I know the family. I know the family. And I just absolutely, I feel sorry for them. When I say no, I want to clarify that through conversations. And I feel very saddened for their loss. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I think you will agree with me on this. And I mentioned it a minute ago to Linda. Politics sometimes has a tendency, and we've seen this happen so many times, and I'll throw in the Iranian nuclear deal as an example. Politics clouds the issue of truthfulness and honesty. I hope it isn't going to happen in this particular case. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. A couple of clues if they ever are released, and let any of the reporters in to take pictures and report on. Would be real interesting to see if the vehicle that had the victim in it is ever let out to the public, and if the autopsy report is ever released.
Oh, absolutely. All of those things need to be very prevalent and very forthright and honest. But I'm going to ask you this real quick, and then I've got to do a commercial break, and I got another call. Honestly, when you look at the stories of one eyewitness that is over 200 yards away, 2 football fields away, versus a girl that's in the automobile that was being shot at, whose opinion and thought process are you going to accept the most?
Well, and the fellow that was the witness in the 200 yards away, he was in the other vehicle.
Yeah.
So, well, you know, and that young gal, I don't think she had enough time to fabricate all of that story either.
No, and you know...
Okay, I'll let you go.
God bless you for your thoughts this morning. I appreciate it. Caller number 2, you stay right where you are. I'll be right with you quickly. Just stay by the phone. Don't forget our friends at our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and they've got all the traction tires. You heard Gina's weather. We might get a little bit more angel dandruff on the roads with the snow, the ice, and the yuck, so be prepared. They've got all the traction tires you need right there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Along with, and again I can attest to this, great brake service. Yeah, buddy, they know brakes. And, of course, another thing I can attest to, they've got the best in batteries. Shocks and struts, alignment specials, everything. They take care of you. Please stop in and enjoy the service at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes Jackson, Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I've got 1 minute left. Go ahead, please.
Just a couple of comments quickly, Zeb. First of all, if that was at Seneca, that would have been well into Grant County, not excusing the Harney County Sheriff because I have friends in that department who are unhappy with him. And also, if they went into that center like they did, what if someone went into Craters of the Moon and occupied it? The normal people that would visit there would not feel comfortable going in.
I agree.
Which happened there. The bird watchers and the people that normally visit just stayed away because they didn't feel comfortable going in there. And also, I will get more facts because I have friends that not only did I ranch neighbors to the Hammonds and ran cattle in the Refuge when I lived there, but also I have friends in the Sheriff's Department, so I'm going to get more information.
You know, and call me on this, because as I said a moment ago, I think open minds and asking good questions is very relevant right now. Wouldn't you agree? She's gone. Oh, darn, I didn't want her to hang up. Adrian, thank you for your call. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Do I have another caller, Wheels, real quick?
Yes, sir.
Real fast, 30 seconds, caller. That's all I've got. Go. They're not there.
Am I in the air?
Yeah, real quick. You only got 30 seconds. Fast. Go.
Okay. I just want to say that read Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. The federal government has absolutely no jurisdiction over these lands. They were not purchased. They were not ceded by the states. They're not for the lawful purposes outlined in Article 1, Section 8. They're not for forts. They're not for dockyards. They're not for public buildings, even post offices. They have zero jurisdiction.
Absolutely. Appreciate your comments, and we're going to get into it a little bit more later on this morning. Thank you, sir. I got to run to the news. CBS is next. I'll be back in 6 minutes. Don't go away. Good morning and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch, hour number 2 with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. Great people. Thank you very much. Along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and the free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, they really are always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, locally owned and operated. And, you know, a lot of people are probably already planning for spring and summer events. And with those special events, whether it's business, picnics, or whatever the case might be, you always have to think about porta potties. Well, Western Waste Services with the best and the cleanest of the porta potties. And don't forget, too, the route service to pick up your garbage once a week like clockwork. They're there to get rid of your garbage. Call them today at 734-6969, always at your disposal. And before we go to the chamber, let's see, I want to also mention to you about our dear friends at Hanson Mortuary. Don't forget, our dear friends, there to serve you when there really is a time of need, a time for help, and a time for somebody to be very comforting and help you with all the particulars that have to be done immediately when there's the passing of a loved one. They are there. They know. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward, his staff, his family, they're serving you always with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please call them at 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. Well, a good morning. I bet she's got a great big grin on her face, smiling, looking out the window at the sunshine, glistening off the Snake River. Hello, Kay Cameron at the Minnecasia Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning. It is such a beautiful morning. I've got the sun shining in on my back, and the mountains, looking out at the mountains, they're almost mystic, the way the light is hitting them, and they're kind of almost obscured by, I don't know if it's fog or something, but it's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Mr. Rogers came in the house, took off his sweater so we can listen to Kay Cameron tell about the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, we are busy today. We have our big annual banquet this year. Every year we have our annual installation banquet where we install our new chamber board and our new president. We're looking forward to 2016, and we're going to have a great event tonight. And Chet Jepson, he works over at the Department of Labor. He's the incoming president, so he'll be the president of the chamber this year, and I really look forward to working with him and the things that the board has set for their goals for the direction for this year, and it's going to be a great year.
Well, now, along with that chamber induction, what other things or items are on your checklist that we'd better start looking at today?
Oh, we can talk about it next week. Okay. No, I've got to get past this banquet. It's kind of consumed my life. I do want to talk about first of this week. I was in Boise for a couple of days. I had meetings there. We had chamber days with the legislators and spent a couple of days in meetings. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot going on, a lot of activity. As the Minnecaji Chamber of Commerce, we're part of an alliance of other chambers throughout our state that are watching issues that affect business in the state of Idaho. And one of the important issues that we're closely paying attention to and that we're very supportive of is additional funding for professional technical education. One thing we continue to hear from our businesses is that we need to have career-ready students, and our students need to be ready for a career.
Amen.
Whether they go to college or they learn some sort of a professional technical skill, those kinds of things are important. And it's not just our students graduating, but it's our general population. We need to have a career-ready population so that people can get into the workforce and find the careers that they want and they need.
Boy, you said a mouthful right there. We've had quite a few discussions the last couple of days on this program about education and the opportunities, and God bless you for bringing that up this morning. Real quick, and I didn't mean to shortchange this chamber induction, what about tickets? What about location? What about time? What about everything else?
Well, it starts tonight. Social hour starts at 6. Dinner starts at 7. If you're interested in attending, please contact our office today because we've already sent in our RCP, but we can always make room for more. Our number is 208-679-4793, but it should be a great event, and like I said, we look forward to it. We're very busy.
All right. Now, another thing you just mentioned real quick, give me a short synopsis on this, but you mentioned you met with some of the legislators over a chamber day at the legislative session. What do you discuss with those legislators?
We had a full day, a full 2 days worth of issues and meetings, and as I mentioned, the number one priority for chambers across the state this year for our alliance is professional technical education.
Okay.
We set a priority list every year, and that is, a very important issue to all of us, and so that is our number one priority. But we had panel discussions on urban renewal. We had panel discussions on different, all kinds of legislative issues that can be possibly proposed. We actually had an interesting panel on the political landscape nationally and also here in Idaho that was brought to us by a strategist, and talking about just kind of politics in general.
Okay.
And it was very fascinating.
Okay.
We had the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem of the Senate talk to us on their perspective of different issues. We had breakfast with the governor, and he talked about some of his things, and it's really interesting to hear the differences in what they're kind of saying, and it will be interesting to see how it all kind of shakes down at the end.
I got to run, but did the governor pick up the ticket?
Doubtful.
Okay.
I know that was all part of our alliance. The chambers picked up the ticket.
All right. Hey, tell everybody real fast how they can get a hold of the Chamber of Commerce, please, Kay.
Come by and see us. We're located at 1177 7th Street in Hayburn, right next to the beautiful Snake River. Give us a call at 208-679-4793. Find us online at minnecassachamber.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Very well done. Kay Cameron, Minnecassett Chamber of Commerce. God bless. Thank you.
Have a fantastic day.
I will. Thank you much. I think we have a caller waiting, and we're going to get to that caller momentarily. Don't forget, let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the world, serving everybody because it's where the fun is sold. All the ATVs, all the snowmobiles, all the motorcycles and motorcycle accessories, everything. Great accessory department, too. And a service department that can fix anything. So remember, that's the place to go. Let's ride. Excuse me for the sore throat this morning. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the world, and it is true. It's where the fun is sold. Wheels, do we have that call waiting on the line?
Yes, sir, we do.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, in a continuation of our story, quickly for about 5 or 6 minutes here, that we were talking about on the first hour, we have a gentleman that used to live up in the Burns, Oregon area, knew the Hammond family really well, and his name is Wayne Hewitt, and he was on the air with me the other day on this program. Wayne, real quick synopsis over what's happened over the last couple of days, especially with the shooting death of Mr. Lavoy Finicum. Your thoughts on this problem and how it needs to be solved. What are your thoughts?
Good morning, Zeb. How are you doing?
Thank you very much.
It needs to be solved peacefully. That's foremost. I'm reading an affidavit that was sent by the the District Court of Oregon, and it's a formal complaint against the Bundys and 7 other individuals by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And there's not one word in that entire statement that mentions the root cause of the problem, that these people will not listen to the United States Constitution. They never mention Article 1, Section 8, Chapter 17, anywhere in this complaint. And that's the root of the problem. They won't address the redress of grievances. That was never mentioned. That's what's got to happen, is we need our questions answered, and we need them answered peacefully.
Let me ask you this, Wayne, in regards to the shooting of Mr. Lavoy Finicum. According to one statement that was an eyewitness, if you will, that was over 200 yards away, versus another statement of the girl that was in the vehicle with Mr. Finicum. What are your thoughts about the contrasting views of what happened?
Well, you get two people, or a group of people, and there's always there's 3 different sides to the story. What I believe happened was this affidavit, the complaint that I've read, was dated January 2nd. It was filed on January 16th. So I firmly believe that this whole thing was premeditated murder.
You have that strong a belief that this was pardon the lack of better words, but basically a setup.
Yeah, it was all planned. And the affidavit clearly explains that to me. It was dated on January 2nd, the complaint.
You know, I asked quite a few questions in the first hour, and I'll give you a quick review of some of these questions. You can pick out the one that you'd like to respond to. Going back to the Hammonds, why were the Hammonds treated like terrorists and suffer double jeopardy? Why is the government so intent on getting their land? Why were the ranchers, and that's what they were, set up in a roadblock on a public thoroughfare, and this shooting, I mean, anybody could have been injured. There's so many other questions I have about whether or not they had weapons, whether or not they acted in an aggressive manner, and the press conference yesterday was really a phony press conference. There were just statements by the FBI and others with police departments and no questions and answers. And Wayne, what are your thoughts about some of the things I've just raised?
Well, number one, the Hammonds land sits on a big uranium deposit. That's what the government wants. They want the land for the uranium. The setup by the FBI was all pre-planned, and it's just, they murdered a patriot, is what they've done. Cold-blooded murder.
Let me interrupt you.
Stand for that.
Let me interrupt you right there, Wayne, and ask you this. There is another side to the story. You know this because you've heard the people and you used to live there. There's another side of the story. Many of the residents in Burns that were interviewed supposedly said, yes, they're glad the protesters are gone. They want to get back to life at normal. But, you know, when you look at stories like what happened in Baltimore with the looting and the burning and the destruction, and they were just left like animals to cause chaotic treatment of their city, and then you look out here at these protesters, they didn't hurt anything, they didn't burn anything, they didn't hurt anybody, and yet they get killed.
Exactly right. They did nothing wrong. So what they did wrong was they were standing up for the Constitution of the United States. The government is out of control, and what they do is they're killing people that say anything against the government. This is the most trumped-up charge. I can't believe the complaint.
Let me ask you.
Doesn't even make sense.
Mm-hmm. Wayne, let me ask you this question. Because I'm at a lack of time. Caller, hang on. You used to live there, and so you have an opinion formulated by your formative years up in that area. So that's why you're basing the opinion that you have now, right?
Yes, I can name several different ranchers that are having their land taken away by the BLM. Steve Perkins is one. He lost at a 750 head permit. The BLM told him the next year you only get 250. That's one example.
Right.
And it's been going on for 60 years that I know of.
All right, now hang on. We got a quick call. We'll take this caller with a question. And caller, make it brief. Please, go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm just so appalled at all this that happened up in Oregon. I believe that every federal, state, and local government official that was involved in this is guilty of violating their oath to the Constitution. They should all be fired. They should be brought up on charges of really murder and accessory to murder in this case. They have all violated their oath to defend the Constitution. If there were any decent officers involved in this at any level, they would come forth now as whistleblowers and say, what this was is murder. This is wrong.
I appreciate your call. Thank you.
It makes me wonder just how many police officers and government officials in this country really do uphold the Constitution. Do they believe it, or are they just following orders? You know, I am just appalled at all this. I love the Constitution. I love America. And I fear my government. And I loathe those people who are turning this into a tyrannical police state.
All right, sir. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. And I gotta have my guest Wayne respond to that caller real fast. Wayne, please.
Well said, my fellow patriot. I agree with everything you said. In fact, for this complaint, it says conspiracy to impede officers of the United States from discharging their official duties through the use of force, intimidation, or threats.
Let me ask you a quick question, Wayne. I'm almost out of time, so forgive me. And I want to get you back on, but I've got constraints on Thursday I have to honor. Number one, I just want to ask you quickly about the press conference yesterday. There were just statements that were read and no questions were taken. I made a statement the first hour that this gives the FBI and other law enforcement agencies connected to this case to formulate a rock-hard circle of involvement so that nobody can approach with questions that they're not prepared for. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. They've kicked the press, the so-called press, out of the entire county. There is nobody, you can't get anything out of the county right now. There is not that the press has been told to leave.
I appreciate your being on the program this morning, Wayne. I apologize for the last minute of giving you a call, but you're always welcome on the show, and please know that I'll be in touch with you in the future.
Please do that.
All right. God bless you.
It's time to stand up.
I appreciate it. Wayne Hewitt, thank you very, very much. Deanne, I'm going to call my wife over here. Deanne, I need you in here for a minute, please. And we're going to get ready for our next guest in just a moment. Stand by. Wayne Hewitt, thank you so much. I want to remind everybody, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more. All you have to do is give them a call for an appointment today. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, are dedicated and devoted to serving you. Please give them a call for all your insurance needs. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. And right now, let's go to the phone line. Where'd all these dogs come from anyway? My goodness, they're all over the place. Who let the dogs out? And we've got old Kennel Ken with us, and that is Officer Mort with, of course, the Minidoka Animal Control. Good morning. And
good morning, Deb. How are you today?
I'm busier than a 3-arm paper hanger because, man alive, I got people knocking on the door. I got the dogs barking. I got people on the phone. I've got you waiting. Whew, I'm running out of deodorant.
You can understand that one.
Okay. What's going on in the world of dogs?
Well, today I would like to feature Charlie. He is a miniature pinscher Chihuahua cross.
Charlie?
In color.
Okay.
He is approximately 2 years old. When we first got him, he was very scared, and if you approached him too quickly, he would bite.
Oh.
But now that we've had him in our facility and I've been working with him, you walk in there, and as soon as you get close to his kennel, he's right there at the kennel door waiting for you to open it up so that he can jump up into your arms. He loves being held now, loves to cuddle, loves to give kisses. He would make somebody a very awesome pet, especially if they didn't have small children. And at the house he came from, they had small children, and unfortunately the kids were a little rough with him, so he was rough back, and they had to get rid of him due to that nature. But, I mean, he has just turned into one great little guy.
You know, stop right there, Ken, because you're giving a story about a dog that a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's a mean little dog. We don't want him. Well, wait a minute. It sounds like human beings made the dog be very protective of his own environment and himself. I mean, I absolutely stress that little kids around dogs, I don't allow it. I mean, when little kids come to my home, we put Ruby away, or if she's outside and little kids are around, I'm very strict with people that come in the yard with small children because I want them to watch the kids. I'm not going to watch my dog.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the things and stuff, and that is the way a dog reacts, and that is how it's treated when it's in a home environment.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize they think a dog's supposed to be friendly at all times. Well, when it gets cornered, its natural instincts are going to come out,
Yep.
and that to protect itself, and that's what it's going to do. So just be cognizant on it when you've got little kids around animals that they need to behave and not roughhouse with the dog or anything like that, and make sure that their safety is taken into consideration for both the animal and the child.
I agree with you. There again, I was trying to carry on a conversation with my wife, too. And you know something, Ken? You're married for a long time. When the wife is whispering to you, you listen to her first.
Most definitely.
Yes. Now, his name is Charlie, and tell us a little bit about his breeding again.
He is a miniature pinscher and Chihuahua cross.
Miniature pinscher. I'm trying to envision that.
Pinschers, they look like little small Doberman pinschers.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like a little miniature pinscher and Chihuahua cross, I mean, but he has become the most sweet and loving little guy and that there is.
Now, you people over at Minidoka Animal Control, you really know the histories on these dogs, and you really know the people that would best suit a home for them, right?
Oh, most definitely. Matter of fact, the one that I featured last week, come about noon, I had a gentleman stop into our facility, and he says, I am looking for a border collie cross of some sort. I'm wanting a companion dog, and I'm really on the border collie side. I says, I just featured one today. It's the only one I have available. Brought her out, and it was instantly love at first sight. I mean, she took to him, he took to her, and I mean, he just gave me that look like I've got to take her home. So he actually took her home. He got her scheduled and stuff and that, and got her spayed, and is just loving life. I mean, I've had a lot of people that have showed up in pickup trucks, and they just put the dog in the back of the pickup truck. Well, this gentleman didn't. He put her right up in the cab so that she could be right there with him all the way home.
That sounds like Ruby. And I'll tell you something. I'm afraid one of these days Ruby's going to call you on the phone and put Deanne and I up for adoption.
I don't see that happening.
Okay. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, Ken.
They can get a hold of us at 438-2200. Me on my cell phone at 670-7268, or the Deb Hines with Hayburn's Animal Control at 670-4348.
Great gentleman that I've known ever since he was a wee toddler baseball player, and he's a great guy. Ken Mort, Officer Ken Mort, Minidoka Animal Control. God bless you, man. See you later.
God bless you.
Thank you. Where'd all these dogs come from anyway? Holy cow. Got dogs all over the place. Holy smokes. Go get them. Featuring Charlie today. That sounds like a really neat dog. We're going to have our next guest with us in a minute. Don't forget Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan Horsley and the rest of the crew. All your firearms, from Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester, the ammo, and also the people that really know guns. Right there at Red's Trading Post. And they've got all the accessories to the knives and the holsters and the reloading kits, everything, along with the hard-to-find powder for the reloaders. Oh, yes, remember, Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. It is time now for a lovely lady. I always look forward to her political insight every Thursday on our program, and I'd like to say good morning to the lovely Rita Ramsey. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Rita, I'm sure that you are a devout listener and have heard the last couple of days my take on what took place up in Oregon at Burns. I know the area very well. I know a lot of the people up there, etc. And I just think, and I'll give a real short synopsis on this, I just think this situation with the protesters and the FBI and the area has been allowed to grow like a cancer and get out of control.
Well, that's really true, and I feel really bad with what's happened. I knew this would happen when they very first took control of that, and also it's just like a little outbuilding. It wasn't like it was the main building for visitors come and stuff. But anyway, I knew that would happen, because what happens is the federal government, and they did this at Ruby Ridge, and they did it at Waco, and they've probably done it in a few other areas that we're not overly familiar with, is the federal government makes it look like these people, they tell the citizens of the United States that these people are crazies, and we just had to take care of it. We had to stop them. And what they do is by doing that, and this is just the way the press has done with this. One instance of this is I read a deal on the New York Daily News. He said, and he's talking about Lavoy Finicum, he said, Finicum and his wife, who visited him shortly before his death, received subsidies for taking care of foster children. He said that around 50 kids had come through his ranch in recent years. So they make it look like he's subsidized by the federal government. Well, you know what? Even though those payments came from the government, they were taking care of children that people had cast off.
You know,
so they make him look like he's just a big sponge. He's a wacko. He's out of control. And that's the way they make these other people, so that we won't pay attention and think, this was something the government should not have done.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question evidently real early in the program. Caller, go ahead fast. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you know who the ACLJ is. It's the American Center for Law and Justice. They do pro bono cases. It's no charge. and they concentrate on constitutional law, on the emphasis on the First Amendment. And they have a radio program every day that starts in an hour. And I'm hoping people will call that number and tell them to take this case. And it's 800-684-3110.
Thank you for the plug for another station and another program. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for your call. I appreciate that. There's others, too, like Pacific Legal Foundation and many others of that ilk, and I'm sure somebody else is going to take a look at this case. Rita, what I said first hour, I'm going to stand behind some of these questions. You know, why was the government, and is the government right now, so intent on getting the Hammonds land? And I've asked other questions in regards to what happened with Mr. Finicum. Why were they in a roadblock that was set up with numerous agents? It was a setup on a public road, and why did these shootings have to take place? There hadn't been any illicit action. There hadn't been any laws broken as far as their travel is concerned. I mean, why? I keep asking all these questions.
Well, they're making an example of them. They're using an excuse as a routine travel stop or check or whatever. We know that's not what it was. What it all boils down to is when you face off with the federal government, you are going to have people say that we're going to teach you a lesson. You're not going to keep doing this. Now, the answer to taking care of this situation and others was when those guys went over there to be in solidarity with the Hammonds, and they should have. They should have gathered a group together and said, okay, we need to join together with the American Lands Council. They're in the middle of trying to get all of the western lands back to the states. We need to gather together and go with them and help push that along and get that done. When you have one group of numbers and numbers and numbers of people, the federal government will have to listen. But when you have a bunch of splinter groups, they just try to discredit you, and then something like this happens. And it's really, really sad. The same thing happened with the wolves. You had tons and tons of splinter groups, but nobody ever banded together with everybody that was interested in the wolf thing in Idaho, everybody that was interested in the wolf thing in Montana and Wyoming, banding together and fighting against it. You just had tons of splinter groups, and nothing got done.
I want to ask you a little bit. Did you have the opportunity to watch that press conference yesterday?
I listened to a little bit of it. I did not have a chance to watch.
You know, Rita, I've been involved, and I'm not exaggerating, probably hundreds and hundreds of press conferences. And I had a feeling, Deanna and I were watching this thing when it came on the air, and I had a feeling, and Deanna and I both stated this to each other, that it was going to be a set-up press conference. In other words, when I use the word set-up, it would be set up so that it would just be statements and no questions and answers. And that's exactly what happened. Pre-written statements given over the microphone, and then the FBI took the mic back and said there would be no questions until there was a further update and further investigation. Why even have a press conference and beleaguer the press to come to an area, set up, and then in 5 minutes they're done, and they've diluted everything as far as the value of that press conference, and give them, one side, all the time necessary to formulate a story that cannot be changed?
Well, they did their due diligence. They had a press conference. Oh, by the way, they don't tell anybody that nobody could ask questions. They went through the formalities that they needed to do, and they were also sending a message. Leave us alone. We're not going to answer any questions. And they're hoping that it can be brushed away. Now, we're all saying, how come the press and the national media isn't paying any attention to this? Well, we've got a sideshow going on with a politician that's running for president. That's why. Yeah.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly with your question.
I just have a quick comment I was going to say before, but I didn't want to take your time. Last night I was listening to a talk show at 10:30, and they were expecting to have a reporter live on them, and someone else had to talk the phone and say that sorry, the FBI just arrested him, so he can't come on. So they stopped him. I'll hang up.
You know, caller, don't go away. Can you hear me all right, caller? I want to ask you a question. Am I coming through all right? Oh, she left. I wanted to ask her a question. She's a very nice lady and used to live up in that area. Rita, I think that this whole issue shows that we need much better coordination with our police forces, the FBI, and the Constitution. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's just sad that people, and it's going to have to be up to us, the citizens. We're going to have to take our country back, and we're going to have to do it by getting involved. And getting involved doesn't just entail watching the news and kind of talking about it. We're going to have to band together and make a difference. And until we do that, the federal government is going to be tyrannical towards us. And that is not the way that our country goes. We are supposed to be free from a tyrannical government. But unless we stand up for it, band together, and start making statements, this is just going to keep happening. They were hoping that this type of thing would have happened down on Bundy's deal, and then that got all out of control, and there were a lot more people showed up with guns, so they didn't really do anything. But they were just waiting for the next one to happen, and that's it's going to keep happening.
Let me throw this at you, and I mentioned this yesterday or the day before. You know, we look at the city of Baltimore, and we look at the looting and the burning and the destruction of human businesses and lives. And the government and the police forces were told to basically stand down by even the mayor of the city. And then you look at the destruction in Chicago and all across this country by groups called like Black Lives Matter, where they go in and disrupt and nobody does anything, nobody slaps their hands. This group, what did they do to destruct? What did they do to obstruct anybody? And yet they end up with a very well-known, likable family man laying dead on the pavement. Why?
Well, that's the whole story. If it happened back there where they were having all those people and then the big city, boy, they'd have their prosecuting attorneys and county defenders and everybody else making a big stink about it. They can come out to the Netherlands, which they call us, or the Neverlands, because they don't think that we really even exist. We obviously don't matter to most of them. Come out with where you just got a bunch of crazy people, and you got ranchers that are terrorists because they burned government land. And I mean, it's all the press. The press does this. They're the ones who are in charge of it. They're the ones who start it. They're the ones who can get it finished. Most of the time they just want a story. But what it does is they discredit, they take a few statements from federal people saying, oh, you can't do this, and these people needed to be stopped, and we couldn't put up with that. You know, they make it sound like that little outbuilding that these folks were in was a great big wildlife refuge center, and they couldn't do business or anything else, and they just make it look like you've got crazies. And it's really sad because they won't make it look like those people who are literally burning down cities in Baltimore or over there in Missouri or any other place. They're not the crazy people. It's just the regular old people that are out here making the country work.
You know, and I think what I'm about to say really could happen unless journalists do their job. There's not going to be a settlement of this issue. Feds win. Game over. And that bothers me because journalism today doesn't get in and ask the questions, doesn't get in and do investigative reporting, doesn't get in and ask the federal government or the FBI or politicians really what's going on. The problem in this country is that people in my profession are lazy or they're afraid of losing their job. And that's why the American public is suffering from not really getting the right information. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think they're more lazy than anything else because they think they can just hurry and pick up or pull a story from someplace or whatever, and they don't have to do any investigative reporting. And so they can be at the top of their game. But it all boils down to things like that Cheryl Atkinson, who, you know, was doing actual investigative reporting, and the government just clamped down on her and fed computer lines into her house so they could delete all of her stuff. And I mean, you've got a tyrannical government, first of all, and second of all, you've got people that aren't willing to stand up for their colleagues, saying, hey, you can't do that to us. Did you realize we're the fourth arm of the government? We're supposed to be keeping the government responsible and in check and making sure that they're not doing something. That's really what the press was set up to do, was to be overseers, and instead they're just complicit.
You know, and here's something I'll throw at you, and I think you'll agree with me on this case too. If you don't, let me know. But I do a lot of research on the various stories, and I start asking a lot of questions that are unanswered. And I will invariably get a lot of people that will call me on the telephone, or they will send emails and they say, oh, you're just an old rabble-rouser, and you're just an old conspiracy theorist. Really, that's not the case at all. Because I'll go back to what I said a moment ago. The general journalistic media is too lazy to really go out and get the facts. And so those that are creating the story, they know they can force-fed the American public anything, and they're going to buy into it.
Oh, absolutely. And proof is in another case, and that's those two that were doing the undercover work for against the Planned Parenthood and against the community organizing people and all of those. You know, they've had lawsuits filed against them. We're going to put you in jail, and the federal government's making all of the media think, man, if you cross the line, you're in jail, instead of saying, you know what, you better be able to defend yourself. They're just saying, no, you're going to be in jail, you'll be out of business, and we'll make you disappear from everything and everywhere, and people will forget you're even around, and by the way, you may even just disappear off the face of the earth.
I've got to do a weather forecast. Stay with me, Rita. I'll be right back. Rita Ramsey on Thursdays on our program. Let's not forget the weather, brought to you by Mountain Transmissions. And, of course, they're located at 504 East Main in Burley. 30 years experience of fixing transmissions and rebuilding transmissions. Cars, trucks, RVs, motorhomes, you better get a hold of them today for that transmission tune-up special. 504 East Main in Burley, 678-9110, Mountain Transmissions. Here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast on this Thursday, January 28th. Partly cloudy skies for today, high of 43. Tonight, low of 33. Now, tomorrow we are expecting about an 80% chance of rain showers in the forecast. Winds out of the southeast right around 11 miles an hour. High of 41 with an overnight low of 32. Saturday, as we get on into the weekend, partly cloudy and 35 with an overnight low of 21, and partly cloudy and 31 for Sunday, and then 30 for Monday. Yesterday's high was 38. The overnight low was 21. That's your weather for Zebit Durant.
Appreciate it, Gina. Brought to everybody by Mountain Transmissions. They're located at 504 East Main in Burley, 678-9110. Make an appointment with Rick today. Rita, let's shift gears a little bit because it's a very prominent story for today, and I want to get your take on this. I said the last couple of days when I learned that Trump might avoid the debate tonight in his not liking Megyn Kelly and, quite frankly, a dispute with Fox News, I said that he needs to be the bigger guy, and he needs to stand up there at the podium, and he needs to stick his chin out and just answer every one of their questions and show America that he's above the fray and that he's tougher than they are. Then, last night on O'Reilly, I got to admit, O'Reilly told him the same thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just kind of wonder, is that what we can expect from a President Trump? Either you do it my way or not. I think we already have a president like that. This really is disturbing because he should be the bigger person. He should be the one that, that was all under the bridge a long time ago. He didn't need to bring it up and let it resurface again. All he needed to do was plan on attending the debate like everybody else. I don't know why he's afraid of it. It looks to me like he's trying to let people know, I'm in charge. If you do it my way, everything's good. If you don't, I'll just take my ball and go home. And by the way, you won't have the ratings that you normally have because I'm the one who is responsible for your good ratings.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think that the admonition that O'Reilly gave him last night, even though Bill O'Reilly is not one of my favorite talk show hosts or any kind of a host whatsoever, I really do think he was right when he told Trump that, hey, wait a minute, you better look at your whole card on this. A, you're going to be letting a lot of people down. B, it's right before the Iowa caucus. C, you better show them that you're a man that can take some heat and still keep on ticking like a cheap Timex watch. And D, most importantly, act like a leader. And I think Trump took both guns out of the holster last night, and he's shooting himself in the foot.
Well, I think so too, but I also just wonder if that isn't his true side, and maybe we should be wary of that, because we've already got a president who's that way, and it hasn't worked out real well. When you have somebody that I'm in charge, I'm the one who's important, I'm it's just all about him, and it really is disconcerting when you have somebody like that. It kind of looks to me like that maybe the American people are looking for a king. And if you read the scriptures, you know what happens when people look for a king. They become in bondage.
Well, and you lead me into another aspect on the other side of the aisle. I got to tell you something, that every day that goes by, and I hear all these different stories coming up about FBI investigations into Hillary's emails. Will she be indicted? What will happen if she's indicted? What's going to happen with other Democrats getting involved? And I'm wondering, wait a minute. Here we have a conglomerated mess on the right of all these different individuals representing the GOP. And over on the left, we don't have any choices whatsoever because of their platform and because of who's running, and she might be behind bars if she's elected. What has this country come to?
I'll tell you what this country's come to. We are a bunch of angry people with our government. And because we're angry, we're looking for somebody that'll step out and say, I'll solve it. And because it happens to be a high-profile, news, or not news guy, but TV personality, we think that he can solve it. And so we're paying attention to him. The other, it's kind of like, if you look at the right hand, what is going on with the left hand? Well, what's going on with the left hand is they're hoping they can keep all of this under the radar. But it all boils down to one thing, and that is that Hillary has done a lot of illegal stuff with her emails and misusing her office of the State Department and everything else, and we have got to make sure that we keep bringing that out, because we will end up with a Hillary for president, or whoever they decide to put in there once they have her make the fall. And I really think they will have her make the fall before it's over with. But we're looking down the wrong tunnel. The tunnel we ought to be looking down is both sides, and making sure that we get somebody who will uphold the Constitution and protect us as citizens from tyranny of the government and from foreign people.
But Hillary Clinton, come on, really, somebody in the audience, and I've asked for this every time I've talked about this subject. Hillary Rodham Clinton, what is the fascination with her? She's one of the most disliked figures in politics. She is absolutely conniving. She's absolutely a fraud and a crook, and she may be under federal indictment. Is it just because she would become the first woman president? Is that the fascination? And is that the best America can do?
No, it's because she's got a D behind her name. And Bernie Sanders, he's hustling for something else, and he's getting a lot of people who are supporting him. But his name is not commonly known, and so there's a lot of people that if they're Democrats and you were to meet them on the street, the on the street people, ask them if they know who Bernie Sanders is. Probably 90% of the Democrats wouldn't even know who he is. But they know Hillary because she's been out in the forefront for 30 years. Well, everybody knows Hillary, and she's going to have to be the one because she's a Democrat. And you say, well, what about the stuff that she did that was wrong? Well, they echo the things that they hear. Well, it's a right-wing conspiracy. They're just trying to make us look bad. We didn't really do anything wrong. The thing of it is she has a whole list of things that she did wrong, people that she involved, people that she took money from, people who benefited from her letting them have access to State Department information. she has got all kinds of stuff, and nobody's paying attention because she's the one out in the front that everybody knows. And, oh, yeah, if we can just get her, we're going to, we'll have the same thing. Well, their same thing of what we've had before isn't what most of us want, but a lot of people, it's like, well, those Republicans, they're pretty mean, and they'll take away all of our stuff, so, we'll just go along with the Democrats again.
All right, real quick, I've only got a minute left, but I want you to tell me, what honestly do you think is going to come out of the Iowa caucus? The caucus will be over by the time we get together on the radio again, so what are your honest thoughts?
Well, as close as some of them are running neck and neck, but typically with Iowa, nothing's typical with them. So I really don't know. I would tend to think that Ted Cruz would win that one, but I do not. I don't know. Things are so crazy with politics, it's hard to even speculate.
Okay. Rita, real quick, anything going on with the Tea Party?
We'll be meeting in a couple of weeks, and I haven't decided yet whether we've got our guests. We've got a couple of different guests that we've got on schedule to have in the next few months, but we've got to find out what their schedules are. So we're mainly talking about the Syrian refugees in our community, and we're kind of keeping on top of the election thing because that's kind of a thing that's quite important to us.
All right, Rita Ramsey, God bless. Have a wonderful week, and thank you so much for being on this morning.
You bet. We'll see you. Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Wonderful lady. Enjoy having her on the program. Rita Ramsey, thank you very much. Yeah, you're ahead of me. You know what day this is, and you know that at this time of the morning I am so hungry, and I'm starving to death. Let's talk a little bit about some great places you can go. How about Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley? Oh, they got chicken and steak burritos, and you got to check out that breakfast burrito. Oh my, scrambled eggs, bacon, and sausage with cheese and onions, tomatoes, and a special sauce on a tortilla shell. Oh my, put the coffee up to your lips along with that tortilla. It's great eating. Taco Bandito. Let's move on over now to Steve-O's, 290 South, 600 West of Heyburn. Food made the way you love it. Oh my goodness, they got buffalo burgers. And with a buffalo burger, delicious, you've got to have the best French fries voted in the Mini-Cache area. That's right. And along with that great service, absolutely, and Steve-O's nacho fries, topped with cheese and jalapeno peppers. Steve-O's, 290 South, 600 West of Heyburn. Wow. How about Burgers Etc.? Two locations serving you. 124 South Oneida in Rupert and 700 Overland in Burley. Listen to this. Hamburgers only 99 cents and cheeseburgers only $1.29 after 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Hold your hunger and go to Burgers Etc. And don't forget every Sunday a shrimp dinner special at the Burley location. Oh my goodness, great helpful people, delicious food at Burgers Etc. in Rupert and Burley. How about the AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley? Chicken fried steak sandwich absolutely will knock your Tony Lamas off, along with the famous French fries with the sauce, and the Farmer Brown burgers, and the ranch burgers, and any flavor milkshake you can conjure up. Oh, I'm telling you, it's delicious. You stop in and see them today, Monday through Saturday. AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. And last but not least, the El Caporal, 610 North Overland in Burley. Wow! Good food, whether it's lunch, dinner, drinks, parties, celebrate your own special occasion. Nice people. I can attest to that. Great people at the El Caporal. And don't forget amazing Mexican food at a great low price. You're going to love it. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. They've got all kinds of specials. And then, oh my goodness, don't forget Ladies' Night on Wednesday nights at El Caporal. And those are just a few great places to go when you're hungry and starving to death. And am I? Oh my. We're going to take a little break and come back, and we've got Cache County School Days. And then at 10:32 this morning, don't forget, we've got the lovely Marina Noon from New Mexico, and she's going to tell us how the Obama administration absolutely destroyed the coal industry. I'll be back in 6. That's actually Wheels playing the piano over at the studio. No, just kidding. Liberace, better known as Wheels. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations, absolutely the best. Along with some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. 734-6969. Call them today. Right now, a reminder, oh my goodness, let's take a look at what's the special at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, wow, this sounds good. Beef stroganoff on egg noodles with garlic toast and super salad. Oh, baby, I love that dinner. Beef stroganoff on egg noodles, just like Mom used to make. Garlic toast, super salad at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Good food. Let's see what else. Did you hear? This is insane. This is insane in my opinion. About a Colorado homeowner. I'm going to give you a short story on this because we got a segment coming up, and we'll talk about it more next week. A Colorado homeowner is beaten up and tied up in his home by 2 thugs that are robbing his home. The homeowner gets free while they're stealing his stuff. He runs for his gun. He follows the robbers out of his house. The bad guys start to get away. The homeowner shoots the driver. They crash the truck. Now the homeowner that was beaten up and tied up is getting arrested possibly for shooting the crooks. And you think our law isn't being distorted? Oh, my. Okay, let's remind everybody that we're going to be going to Cassia County School Days coming up next, and it's brought to you by, some really nice people. Let's tell you about them. A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. You know they love their customers. And they really appreciate you coming in to shop. And they're going to be celebrating their lucky 13th birthday in February for 13 days. Oh, my goodness. Daily prize drawings and birthday party crafts from February 6th all the way through the 20th. So that's the place to go. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, along with the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call and save money on your outpatient surgeries, 677-8888. There's a good number to remember, 677-8888. Saving you hundreds of dollars and giving you outstanding care. You check it out today at the Ambulatory Surgery Center on Highland, and our other great sponsor, Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Well, right now we're going to go to the phone lines, and we have our guest with us. Pardon my sore throat this morning. We have Declo High School teacher, and I believe we have, as I try to read through my form here, Janet Coles, the teacher. Good morning, Janet. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm well, thank you.
Have you ever been on the program before?
I was last year, yes.
That's what I thought. You sounded really familiar. Now, you're at Declo High School, and you are involved in the Business Professionals of America. Tell us a little bit about that high school program.
Well, the Business Professionals of America is an after-school club that helps students develop job skills. BPA students have an opportunity to participate in over 60 events that include things such as global marketing, small business management, document preparation, interview skills, prepared speech, computer programming, graphic design, and video creation. One of the great things about BPA is it gives students the opportunity to learn beyond what they're learning in the classroom.
Now, I'm going to ask you, Janet, you have a very soft voice. I need you to speak up and project a little bit. I know you're one of those teachers that has a soft voice, but yet you come like thunder at a student that's not doing what they should. But on the radio, I need to hear you better. Give us a little background about what it's taught to the kids. I mean, how are they receiving information about how to be involved in Business Professionals of America?
They receive it through our school. During the class time, I talk to them about BPA, and I tell them what it's about. Usually they learn about it from one another. They have friends who are doing it, and their friends tell them about it, and they grow to participate in it. It's a great opportunity for them to go beyond what we're talking about in the classroom.
Right.
We have professionals in our area. In fact, we just had a competition at Burley High School last Monday, and we just qualified 20 of our DECLO students to advance to the state competition in Boise, so I'm very proud of them. They end up working way beyond what we teach them in the classroom. They end up staying after school, and we work on it. They find experts in the community that they can job shadow and work with. So I think they learn about it word of mouth.
Okay, now, what kind of competition is involved? When you say competition, I mean, what do they do? Do they actually set up their own businesses and learn the profit and loss and everything else about a business? Explain that a little bit.
Well, there are over 60 events, and so one of them is a small business management team where they act as consultants for a business, and they do discuss profit and loss and break-even points. They discuss how to market their products, how to solve problems such as find new locations to expand their business, and then to seek financing from other sources. Okay. So that would be one of the things they do. They also have an entrepreneurship event where they participate as a single person, and they create a business and develop a business plan and develop how to market that idea that they have.
Okay, now, I guess my question is a little vague, but how are they judged? I mean, is there a certain criteria that they have to meet, and then they're judged A through F, or how is that done?
There is a rubric, which is a grading sheet for every activity that they do, and each one is a little bit different, but we bring in judges from outside businesses. In fact, we just had over 30 different business people from the community who donated their time, and they came to Burley High School. They use that judging sheet as a guide to help them see what it is that the student is expected to do, and the requirements are quite stringent. During our first competition, we use it as a way to decide who did well enough to advance to the next level, which is the state competition.
Okay, now, when they go to the state competition, is there a national competition and national award for students?
There is. If they do well enough at state, which means they're competing against students in all throughout the entire state, and it's not done by a class size or a school size like it is in sports. It's every single school. So even a little school like DECLO will have to compete against very large schools. And if they do well enough, they then advance to the state level, or the national level, which is in Boston this year.
Oh, my goodness sakes. And do they eventually have a chance for participating for scholarships, or what are the awards?
There are scholarships, yes. Not for every single event, but actually every student who is in BPA as a senior has the opportunity to apply for BPA scholarships. Students who serve as officers in the BPA organization can participate or actually compete for scholarships. And then students who win particular events, such as the entrepreneurship event, there are sponsors that give the first place recipient, they receive a scholarship to different universities.
Okay. Now, would you mind sharing with us a little bit, maybe some of the different business choices or businesses per se that some of the students have tried to get into?
You mean businesses in our area?
Yeah, I mean, well, what are some of the business choices? I mean, you say these kids put together like a business and learn how to run a business. Give us some of the topics that they talk about and that are in the classroom.
Some of the projects that we have had is that they'll come up with different inventions, and then they will market those businesses. There are also human resource management categories where, for instance, Terry Fate from Dot Foods was one of our judges, and she came and judged that event where students actually have the opportunity to make decisions like a real human resource manager would make. Students have come up with selling different products that they've developed. So, for instance, we had a student last year who participated in selling glassware. She created glassware, and then she marketed that glassware online and sold that. That was her business plan.
Oh, my. Well, now, what about the students themselves as far as their attitude? Now, does everybody in the class participate? Are you choosing various people? Do they submit their names to be a part of this? How does that work?
Students have the opportunity to participate. It's not a requirement, so I do not get every student. I had 32 students this year, which is about 10% of our student population here at Declo High School. And then just depending on how well they do, they can advance. And so we had 20 of those 32 students who are advancing to the state level.
Okay. All right. Now, Janet, one of the things that has bothered me for a long time, and I think if I remember you and I talked about this one other time, is that I think a class like yours and an organization like Business Professionals of America is absolutely a necessity. I think that there's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there that could be developed and we could start more business in this country. But, you know, a lot of these kids, they go to work, they don't even know how to count back change to the customer. I think there needs to be a renovation in teaching kids about the real world of business.
I would agree with that. I think we use skills that we are better at skills that we practice. And so counting back change is one of those things that probably students are not receiving enough practice at.
Okay.
Especially I notice in the stores with the way computer technology has gone, many of the cash registers tell students or tell the people working at the stores exactly what the change should be. But it's what they practice. One of the things I notice as a teacher is I can teach my students something, but if they don't continue to practice it, they will forget how to do it. And so that practice is one of the things that BPA does so well. It allows students to actually practice what they're learning and go beyond what they're learning.
Of all the years that you've done this, as far as being connected to the BPA, Business Professionals of America, do you have any real heartwarming stories of success that you want to share with us?
Oh, lots of them. It's why I do this. I don't get paid extra for doing BPA, and it's a lot of extra time outside of the classroom. So I was in charge of actually helping to organize the regional competition along with Deanne Campbell at Burley High School. And so when you get to a point like that, sometimes you wonder why you're working so hard. But we got to the competition, and I saw my students be successful. And sometimes I see my students fail, but failure is the way that we learn.
Amen.
And so even when they fail, that's a learning opportunity for them to look at what they did or didn't do and then make changes. And so sometimes the failures are just as important. All three of my own children participated in BPA, and they have told me several times in the years since they graduated how grateful they are that they had that experience and how they've used what they actually got the opportunity to practice now that they're out of school.
You know something, Janet? What you just said a moment ago is something that I wish we would have recorded and we could play back day after day. Failure teaches, and it actually teaches them how to succeed and win the next time. Every time I get into a discussion about this, people think, well, I'm talking about on the playing field or on the basketball court. No, I'm talking about life. And you have to fail in order to really learn to succeed. And I think that's what's wrong with America today. Everybody gets a participation trophy. Everybody's told they're a winner, and that's not true.
That's not true. And sometimes we don't teach people that failure is not necessarily bad. Some of the best inventions were the result of something that was actually a failed experiment.
Absolutely. I absolutely look up to and honor teachers like you that are helping with the Business Professionals of America. It's tomorrow's leadership in our economy, and I say God bless you for everything you're doing.
Well, thank you. It's actually a great opportunity for me. I feel very blessed to have the opportunity to work with our students.
I'll bet you do.
More people could work with our students so that they could see that it's not all bad. There's a lot of very good going on in our schools and with our young people.
Janet, do most all high schools, big or small, do they have a association with the Business Professionals of America?
They do. In fact, there were 9 high schools from our region who just participated. Would you like a list of those schools?
Yeah, real quick, please.
I'm looking, let's see, it was Burley, Declo, Murtaugh, Oakley, Raft River, Richfield, Valley, and Wood River, as well as the Kaja Regional Technical Center.
Wonderful, wonderful. Would you do me a favor and come back real soon and tell us more about this? I think it's a fascinating subject, and I really hold you in the highest regard. Janet Coles, Declo High School with the Business Professionals of America, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you, Sam.
God bless. Thank you. Very nice lady. And man, I really enjoyed what she said, helping students really get involved. Excuse me, again with my sore throat. Getting involved in the business world and learning from the grassroots up how to run a business. God bless them. Hey, thanks again to A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, and the Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland in Burley, 677-8888 for sponsoring Cassia County School Days. And another person I want to thank, and that's Debbie Critchfield. She goes way over and beyond in helping us get the people lined up for these programs. And thank you, Debbie. We really appreciate it. All right, let's see what else have I got here real quick. Anything on the list? No. We're going to celebrate right now our business salute, and we're getting all set to go over to Cassia Sales. And the old Zach Attack is there with us on the air this morning at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach, how you doing this morning?
Doing good, Zeb.
I've got a little bit of a cold, so bear with me here this morning. Cassia Sales has been the sponsor for quite some time of Dr. History on our program, and we certainly appreciate and thank you for that. But, you know, you've got quite an inventory over there, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what really is Cassia Sales?
Cassia is just a store where we sell lumber packages, metal roofs, shingles, interior doors, exterior doors, carpet, flooring, any type of floor covering, and just a little bit of everything we sell.
And along with that, I understand you also have, for the guys that have got livestock and they need to keep them in one place and not have them wandering all over, you got the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels too, right?
Yes, sir. They've been a great company to work with, and we can usually have their stuff here within a few days.
Well, now, Zach, what's a typical day in the life of Zach over at Cassia Sales? I mean, what are you talking about? Lumber packages for remodeling and all the shingles and people coming in and ordering Western windows. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we work anything with small remodels to brand new homes on lumber packages, windows for new homes or remodels, or even if people want to just update their existing windows. Western Windows, they've been a great company to work with, and they do a good quality job.
Okay. And now, one question I've had is, what about the people? I mean, if somebody is not very handy with a hammer and saw, like I am not, do you have people available that can put maybe the new door in or the windows?
Yes, there's some contractors that we work with that we highly recommend, and they can do the job, and most of the time we've never really had any problems. We can't please everyone, but we have very good luck with the customers and the clients we use.
Absolutely. Now, you're located right across from the airport. What's the easiest thing to tell people? To hit the brakes when they hit that curve, right?
Yes, sir. If you go over the train tracks, you've gone too far, or if you're right there at the gas station, we're right next door to the Tinker gas station, right across the street from the Burley Airport.
Okay. And what about the hours? I mean, you're there a long time during the day to serve everybody. Tell us the days and the hours.
I'm here Monday through Friday from about 7:30 to 4:30. And on Saturdays, by appointment only, I just give people my cell number, and they can call me. And if they can't make it in during those business hours, I come in on the weekends and help customers out.
All right. Now, Zach, I got to ask you how the kids are. I haven't talked to them for a long time.
They're doing good. Abby's doing great. She's been wanting to call in and do the pledge, so I told her she just needs to remind her mom to help her get on the phone and make the phone call in the morning.
Oh, true blue American family, and I tell you got a great business. You've been in business for how long now? About what, 2-3 years or longer?
My dad's had this store for probably about 10 years now, and I've been in the store for almost a year myself.
Uh-huh. And I just want to urge everybody to work with some very nice people. Minnecasia Sales. And you know something, Zach, I got to tell you with Dr. History, wow, your commercials and everything about your business is being heard in 110 countries.
That's great.
And so,
I'm not shipping that far, but that'd be...
I was going to say, are you ready to ship lumber over to Taiwan?
If we can compete, why not?
Okay. Zach, I wish you the very best, and I can't thank you enough for being a sponsor on our program of Dr. History. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Are you a football fan, by the way?
I am.
Okay, now, here it is. You will be my first Super Bowl prognosticator. Who is going to win the 50th Super Bowl?
I'm rooting for the Broncos on this one.
Okay, final score?
35-23.
35-23, I got you down. And if you're wrong, I can come over and you're going to buy me lunch, right?
That's right.
Okay.
A soda pop.
Okay. Zach, God bless you, man. Take care of Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
God bless. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in the world, and a super nice family. And Abby, if you're listening out there, you're welcome anytime to say the Pledge of Allegiance on our program. Minnecasia Sales, right across from the airport in Burley, 878-2091, and super nice people to work with. Let's see what else have I got here real quick. I'm going to say this right now, and I'm not going to mention it at the end of the program. There are some things that I have to do on occasion next week, and many of them involve different doctors' appointments and that type of thing. And so I'll be out of the house, in the house, in the house, out of the house, going to various things. And so I've got Gina and Sharon that are going to be helping me out on the program, and they do an outstanding job. And I just want to say God's blessings to both of them. There never is a question. Never a question about how the program's going to be handled and how things are going to be done, commercial-wise, etc., with those two. They're extreme professionals, and I sure thank them. And don't worry, folks, yours truly just getting the old engine kind of retuned and everything, and then we'll be back on the air. Right now, I want to remind you, coming up in just a few moments, we are going to have Marita Noon. And this lovely lady has a book called Energy Freedom. She has a weekly blog on energy. Nobody in my contacts has more information about what's going on with energy or the lack of in this United States of America than Marita Noon. She is the executive director of Energy Makes America Great, and she's got an outstanding piece about how the Obama administration literally killed the coal industry, and we're going to be talking about that coming up in just a few moments. But right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studios. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
You know, on this program, I have made it a habit over the many, many years that I've produced this program and brought you the information and the guests. I only deal with the professionals that really know their segment of what's going on in this United States and, for that matter, the world. And I brag about this a little bit because I have the best, and this lady, she actually represents the best of her trade, if you will, and that's knowing about energy here in this United States of America. With me on the phone is the executive director for Energy Makes America Great Incorporated, lovely lady Marita Noon. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a treat to be with you as always.
You know, Marita, I have had you on the program many, many times, and we've talked about energy or the lack of, and what's going on with government controls, but this latest piece of information that you wrote called Killing Coal, the Obama administration's intentional assault on an industry, I highlighted it, I thought it was excellent, and everything in there was absolutely spot on. Give my listeners a little synopsis of this piece about how this administration literally has unemployed so many people and destroyed our electrical partner with coal.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and when you kind of string it all together, as I did in that piece, it presents a startling picture of, as I said, an intentional assault. And it started back before President Obama was elected, when he was campaigning, and his now famous line of, well, yes, you could build a coal-fired power plant, but it will bankrupt you. And that gives us a hint as to what his ideology was in the beginning. Yet, surprisingly, union members in coal country voted for him twice, not necessarily in Kentucky, but in other places, though his policies have now put many Republicans in office in coal country. But the recent trend started at the State of the Union address on January 12, when President Obama said that one little line in there in the State of the Union address that gave you a hint of things to come. And that line said, we are going to change the way we manage our oil and coal resources. And that was on Tuesday. On Friday, just 3 days later, Sally Jewell, Secretary of the Interior, came out and announced a moratorium for leases to mine coal on federal land. And this is supposed to be a 3-year moratorium, during which time they're going to supposedly evaluate the process and so forth. But of course, we know most government projects are not completed on time, so it's likely going to be longer than 3 years. And then to me, as I was writing this, and I need to back up a little, Arch Coal, one of the biggest coal companies in the country, filed bankruptcy on Monday, January 11th. So we have Arch Coal, January 11th. We have State of the Union address, January 12th. And then we have January 15, this announcement about a moratorium for coal mining. And then on January 22nd, and this one just baffled me when someone alerted me to this on Friday morning, January 22nd, which is when I was writing, I was alerted to the fact that not January, I wasn't writing that, sorry, I was writing on the 15th, and I was alerted on January 22nd there was going to be, and this should make your eyes roll, a hearing in Washington, D.C. for the U.S. Commission of Civil Rights. Now, that's not startling so far, but the U.S. Civil Rights Commission was holding a hearing on coal ash. Now, listeners should be having your eyes roll. Wait a minute, coal ash and the Civil Rights Commission? What on earth is this about? But to me, what it showed is that no matter how far removed an agency might be from the war on coal, from the front lines of the war on coal, they were still, engaged. The Obama administration has them engaged in this battle regardless. So it's a pretty startling series of things.
I think it's safe to say, and we haven't even really got into other parts of the article that are excellent, but with the Obama administration, and literally it's like a mafia approach, it's like a gangland slaying in old days of Chicago. We're going to get your business, down you go. It's kind of the mafioso attitude. We don't like you, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely what's happening. Of course, tens of thousands of jobs have been lost.
in coal country, in many places in West Virginia, which is coal country, they have double-digit unemployment, and it's been a brutal attack.
You know, let me ask you this. I want to read a paragraph from your article, and if I'm jumping ahead, just go ahead and tell me. But I really was concerned when I read this. Quote, Bloomberg points out that the Obama administration is facing mounting calls from conservationists to thwart new fossil fuel development as part of the Keep It in the Ground movement. Right there I'll stop, and I can relate to all the different millennial groups on college campuses that are against energy involvement. And it seems like there's a growing trend from the kids that have never supported a family, never held a job, never been any part of a real sensible part of our organization of society. The kids are going out and condemning energy, and when I read this Keep It in the Ground theory, it's spreading all over college campuses.
Oh, it most certainly is. I wrote a column specifically on Keep It in the Ground back in January, and listeners could just Google my name and Keep It in the Ground, and you would find it. But it's definitely a growing trend. The environmental groups have flat out announced that this is their plan. And in my column, I have specific links to their literature, to their documentation, so people can see that, you know, this is not some crazy wacko idea that I just dreamed up. This is their next campaign, following the success of the Keystone Pipeline campaign. Like I said, their next emphasis is Keep It in the Ground. And in fact, I have in front of me, and again, I'd encourage your listeners to do a search for this and pull this up. I have in my hand an op-ed dated January 19. This is a fresh piece from the Los Angeles Times. It is written by Bill McKibben, who is the founder of 350.org, and that 350.org is kind of the leading organization fighting fossil fuels due to belief that they're causing climate change. And the op-ed, the title of this op-ed is How to Drive a Stake Through the Heart of Zombie Fossil Fuel. And towards the end of this op-ed, it says, in May, a coalition across 6 continents is being organized to engage in in mass civil disobedience to, quote, keep it in the ground, end quote.
Marita, I must ask at this juncture, are Americans in general really that naive or absolutely being blindsided by this to where they're not understanding how serious the energy program is in this country? We can't be reliant upon wind and solar, and to just all of a sudden crucify a major industry like coal and then have these very uninformed imbecilic youth come out as the form of millennials and condemn any energy resources or development. Do they realize that they're going to be living in a cave and burning buffalo poop?
And that's not just a joke, because as those of us that follow this know that in Africa, that's what people use to cook their food. It's probably not buffalo, but it is a cow patty or whatever is what they're using to cook their food on. So that's not just a joke line. But realize, Zeb, today's young people, let me back up a moment. This whole anti-fossil fuel message, which really boils down to the climate change message, has been preached, and I mean preached literally, for 25 years. That means that our young people today have never heard anything else. Their entire school life, for anyone 30 or under, their entire life in school, this is what they have been taught.
I can understand that, and I can appreciate that. But then on the other side, a well-rounded, balanced education. Where's the other side? Where are we? Why aren't we coming into the discussion? Why aren't we able to have classroom time? Why aren't we telling the kids, wait a minute, you're listening to a very biased attitude by environmental movements? Why aren't the people on our side, like yourself, getting more of an audience?
Well, I mean, I think the answer would be the Department of Education, but, that's why shows like yours, that's why talk radio in this multimedia world is so important, because it does give people like me an opportunity to present the other side, to present some balance to these issues. And as you know, Zeb, I'm out there constantly, beating the drum, and everything I write, including this article you're talking about on killing coal, has links in it to the data, to the source, so people can see that, again, these are not just crazy ideas that I made up, but, for example, the piece I wrote in December on introducing the Keep It in the Ground campaign, there's links there to the environmental group's, plans on this, and it should startle people.
Let me ask you this, Marita. I mean, anybody that has any common sense at all, whether they're in a coffee shop, whether they're shopping at the mall, or if they're having a church congregational meeting, coffee after service, people have got to sit down and say, well, wait a minute. If we get rid of coal, if we get rid of fossil fuels, where are we going to get our power to run our offices, the electricity? Where are we going to get the transportation to deliver the goods and services with the trucking industry? Aren't they asking questions as to where the alternatives are and how advanced they are in possibly having a turn-on electrical system?
It's funny that you mentioned that because, and I didn't get it into that coal article, but in Belgium, I believe it is, that they have the highest implementation of electric cars in the world. They have more electric cars, I believe it's Belgium, than any place in the entire world. And guess what they're having to do because they've got so many electric cars?
Well, they probably are not being able to furnish enough electricity and or electricity hookups to generate the power for the cars.
Well, you're on the right track. You got to go a step further. They are building new coal-fired power plants.
Oh.
They do not have enough electricity available to power all these cars.
Well, Marita, I said this with you on a program about a year ago. I remember it vividly. I said the idiocy of Obama and other Democrats pushing for electric cars when they're saying the electric grid's going to go through the roof cost-wise, and we're not going to have enough electricity to go around. You're going to be buying a vehicle for $40,000 that's going to be a lawn ornament.
Again, it's funny you mentioned lawn ornament. Another little story I read, but I never incorporated it into anything, because, of course, I read a lot more than I'm able to use, is there was a piece in the Financial Times about electric cars are ruining our gardens. Now, the Financial Times comes from England, so you have to realize, put yourself in a European mode. But if you've got an electric car, and picture if you've been to Europe or to England, you know that they don't have big driveways and big three-car garages like we are accustomed to, or many of us are accustomed to in America. They park on the street because these houses were built before the era of cars. And so they park on the curb. So you've got your electric car there parked at the curb. You run an extension cord from your house to your car. What are you setting yourself up for? Lawsuits, as somebody walks down the sidewalk and trips over your cord. So what they're having to do is build a parking place in the front of their house where they currently have a garden. Now realize a garden, plants suck up CO2, the supposed demon that electric cars are supposed to eliminate the burning of fossil fuels, but yet they're taking out their gardens so that they can park their electric cars in front of their house without people tripping over the cord.
Let me ask you this, and I know you travel a lot. You are an excellent author and a great spokesperson. But have you had the opportunity to really go to some of these wacko environmental meetings that are anti-coal, anti-energy, and have you had the opportunity to stand up and ask very pointed, direct questions and point out that these people are nuts?
Well, yeah, I have to some degree. In my home state of New Mexico, where my organization is based, I have been to some of the commission hearings. And in fact, there's one in New Mexico tonight that I'm not going to be able to participate in, though I sent an alert out today asking people, could you please go? But, you know, at these kind of commission hearings, you don't have that opportunity. But I do have the opportunity to say my piece to the commission, and they have their opportunity, and they really are living in la-la land. I recall one specifically that I went to that was in favor of solar panels. They wanted the commission to not change the policy on solar panels, and I tell you, it was like a mob mentality, Zeb. They were in this hearing room. They had to move it to a bigger room because there were so many people there. The people were there wearing shirts in support of solar. They had signs that the commissioners made them take down. They were hooting and hollering, which the commissioners made them stop. But there were three of us, myself included, who were there to speak in favor of changing the generous solar subsidy policy. Everybody else was from the solar industry, and they wanted to keep the gravy train going. But, you know, I got to tell you, you have to be hale and hearty to be willing to stand up in front of these people and say something that is different from what they believe, because it is a very intimidating presence.
When you say intimidating presence, I mean when you look at somebody and you prove to them that they have no answers and we're going to be regressive in our society. Literally, we're going to go from a world leader down to a third world, third status country, and we're going to see a regression to where our senior citizens are going to be left in the cold. We're going to be seeing newly marrieds not be able to afford to heat their homes. We're going to see a migration to warmer climates. We're going to be a regressive society. They have no answers for this. Why can't they be held accountable?
Well, I mean, I hope they can be. In fact, just yesterday, a bunch of states' attorney generals asked the Supreme Court to put a stay, to put a hold on President Obama's Clean Power Plan, which is behind a lot of this. And that just happened in the Supreme Court yesterday, because what has happened is President Obama's plans have had a lot of court smackdowns, as I call them, for overreach. But by the time the process winds its way through the courts, most of the policies have been implemented, and the money has been spent, and the costs are being borne by the consumer. And I fear that it will take some startling thing like the big snow in New England, which this did not happen, but I was watching for it too, that there were people dying because there wasn't enough power to keep the heat on. Now, as I said, that did not happen. There was a relatively short storm, but I believe had the cold snap been more prolonged, we would have seen that.
Okay, I've got time for one quick call, and then I've got to wrap it up. I've only got about 3 minutes left total. Caller, real quick, go ahead, please.
Yes, I feel like the trucking industry and the American people have lost their opportunity. That big snowstorm back in Washington, D.C. last weekend, they should have boycotted that Washington, D.C., not taking any fuel into anybody. All the gas stations went dry, and boycotted all the grocery stores, and say, this is what you guys want, this is what you've got, you live with it, you figure it out. That would have been a prime opportunity for them to decide, is this what we want, or do we need power plants and energy coming out of the ground?
All right, sir. I appreciate your call. It's a good point. I'm going to have Marita respond over the air. Marita, I've got exactly 1 minute left, please.
Well, your caller's right. It'll never happen, unfortunately. We can all dream, but I always often wish that there could be a 3-day blackout that the power company say, look, this is what you want to do to us. Here's what we're going to do, and you see how you like it. I totally agree with the caller on that.
Marita, I've got to wrap it up, but please come back soon. You're always one of my favorite people to have on the air. God bless you. Energy makes America great. The executive director, Marita Noon, great friend of this program. God bless. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Lovely lady right there, and I always have a real interesting conversation with her because we have problems with the nitwits in this country that don't understand the energy that we need. Oh, my goodness, I've got to get the weather on real quick. Wheels is wondering what's going on. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657, and they've got what's called the tax return meat bundle time. Yes, 70-plus pounds of beef, pork, chicken for only $2.49 plus tax. Ho-ho, you better check it out. Changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast on this Thursday, January 28th. Partly cloudy skies for today, high of 43. Tonight, low of 33. Now, tomorrow we are expecting about an 80% chance of rain showers in the forecast. Winds out of the southeast right around 11 miles an hour. High of 41 with an overnight low of 32. Saturday, as we get on into the weekend, partly cloudy and 35 with an overnight low of 21, and partly cloudy and 31 for Sunday, and then 30 for Monday. Yesterday's high was 38. The overnight low was 21. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina does a great job. Brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew, your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Oh, my goodness, we got to also remind you about our major sponsor. God bless them, super good folks, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. They've got all the performance tires, yes sirree, like the Proxys ST2, superior performance, excellent in wet and dry conditions. They've got all the tire chains. They've got all the studded snow tires. They've got the best brake value promise in the industry with professionally trained technicians. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, all there for you. And batteries, the best. You stop in and see them today. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, along with Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Yes, sirree, Bobby. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I want to say thanks again for all of you that called in this week and participated in the program. You make the engine work. Thank you so much for being so kind. And to all of our advertisers and sponsors, thank you very much for all your involvement. Speaking of which, you've been listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure that you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957 today. Wheels, excellent job this week, my young friend. Thank you for everything that you do.
Same to you. I thank you for everything, and I thank you for letting me do this with you. It's been an honor.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And we'll talk to everybody next week. Sharon and Gina are going to be helping me out a little bit as I run here, run there, and we'll try to put forth the best of information for you all the time, every time on this program. Remember our slogan, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, God bless you and your family. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.